This is another attempt for the September Club Challenge for Buffalo Plaid, and here's my drawing. This is definitely more complicated than the previous one that I was trying, and this one I'm going to be doing a blue and a green and then combining them for kind of a turquoise color. And both those colors I have Boombox Blue and Sliced Kiwi, both from Wholesale Supplies Plus, and then there's going to be a cap on top that I'm going to be using Vintage Gray from Brambleberry. The fragrance I'm using is Rain from Brambleberry. This one is discontinued. I don't really get a rain scent. It's not an unpleasant scent. I just don't really get a rain scent out of there. I don't know what I can really say this smells like because it doesn't remind me of any particular like popular soap or anything. But anyway, the reason why I chose this one and really all the fragrances for anything I'm trying is there is some acceleration. So I don't really like to buy fragrances that have acceleration because I like to do swirls and things, but it works pretty good when I need layers to set up quickly. There is no discoloration in this fragrance, and I have used it before. It gives you enough time. It's not like a soap on a stick or an instant thing, like a floral, but it gives you enough time to get it poured in there and a few minutes for it to set up. So it'll be perfect for this one. Anyway, this is my complicated design. I am going with a much smaller square. So I'm using my standard loaves that I usually do because they give me a nice square bar, and each one of these is 1/2 inch, and then I have a line over here where it is 1/4 of an inch. And what I'm probably going to do is either, depending on what it looks like once I cut it, is either leave it like this or shave off 1/4 of an inch on the opposite side. So I have, hopefully you can see this, so I have an even look on both sides of the bar, and the top is going to have some gray mixed in with it. So the majority of the color is actually going to be the blend. And if you can see, I've got a little bit more of the blue poured than the green because I needed more of the blue than the green. Actually, if you look at the green is where I have those little quarter little sections. So this was just a basic pour, did that last night. And then I'm going to go ahead and go over to my loaf splitter. It's got 1/4 inch increments. I'm going to go ahead and slice these up into bars. I made enough. This is usually, we'll make 20 bars. I did my 24 bar recipe because I wanted to make sure I had extra soap just in case. So I'll for sure get one loaf that is what I need it to be, hopefully the second one, and then some extra left over. If not, I'll for sure get one, and then this one can be just an extra design. So anyway, I have all my math figured out. Have lots of things different broken down. This is where those fractions and percentages come in really handy. So which I'm teaching. I have a junior high child right now and working on fractions and decimals and percentages, and it's like, it's really important, honey, because you're going to use it in baking and crafting and anyway. So yeah, so I've got everything. Like I said, I have it all divided out. I have my oils figured out, my how much I need fragrance-wise, how much you need, and everything. So the more complicated part is once I start actually putting it in together, because I don't want to totally emulsify the soap itself. So, and I'm going to do it in steps, you'll see. So I'm going to do it in steps. So I'll have one, if you can see right here, I have one step for every single one, and then I divide it over here, how much of the soap batter I need, plus how much fragrance, and each layer. So fingers crossed it'll go okay. Gonna go ahead and cut these, and then we'll come back when it's time to start assembling it. As you can see, there are soaps already ready in the mold. So I hit record and then I spent an hour and a half making this batch of soap. And then I got my camera and it was not doing anything. And my camera, I've apparently decided that I have no video room left, even though I have a ton of room. And I had to hit record 3 times for it to even do this. So anyway, we'll still have a making of because I'm going to make this one. So let's talk about this one really quick. This is the Buffalo Plaid that I was just showing you earlier. It has the greens and the blues. These are the little extra pieces, and that's where this one's going to come in. So I'm going to show you how I will make this one. This one is going to be kind of an art deco. So I had a big layer of blue, and that is going across the bottom, and then I had some of this little yellow. The yellow is actually from the pear quince that I poured that's going to be in the previous video, and this was left over in there, and there's some little scraps, so I have a little line of yellow. And then this color, that's not really the color it's going to be, because green has a tendency to morph and kind of look swampy when you're making the soap, and then it'll morph back. And then I added some gray to it because I wanted the gray layer on top. So this will be what that is now, and then I'll come back because I want to use the end pieces in the shavings as kind of a confetti in here too. So this is going to be a fun soap with lots of different designs. And this is the actual Buffalo Plaid, so it's got the gray on top, and then I did an oil drizzle. You can see it's already set up. Did an oil drizzle on top, and actually look, so, and I'm jumping around, see that green? The green is still fluid. That does not have any fragrance in it. The gray does have that accelerating fragrance in it. So it has already set up, and it's getting warm. I need to get it in the oven to oven process. But I did the Buffalo Plaid with the blue and the green, and then mix them together. And let me show you. This is all my math and everything, the design. So this is an actual size of the bar. I ended up not having as much soap as I thought because I had those pieces that I cut off. And even though I used my 24 bar recipe, this is a 20 bar mold, I really need to have more because I had just enough to hit those middle ones. So like the bottom layer, this is, I mixed everything just like the pear quince one. I mixed the oils and lyes, just give it a little quick stir. I didn't emulsify it at all. That way I had everything mixed in evenly, and then I whisked it every time I poured. So I would pour out, like here in my first layer, I poured out 9.78 ounces, and then I added 12.92 milliliters of the fragrance, and that gave me what I needed to have for the recipe. So I placed the A's, and then I poured in the C's, let it set up, placed the B's, poured in the C's again. And my plan is to probably trim off this edge so that it matches that edge over there, and I have a nice even design, excuse me. And then I have the gray that I add on the top just to give it kind of a cap and give it a nice clean look at the top. I think it'll be fun. I have those little swirls up there. So next time, and I do want to try this one again, next time I need to actually make an even bigger recipe so that I have plenty of the soap, because there were some that I was like really kind of worried. I hope when I cut it open tomorrow that I don't have any air gaps. Anyway, so this is inside of here. They're 1/2 inch squares. The other one that I made was 3/4 inch squares in the tall and skinny mold. This is the normal size ones, like the square bars. Anyway, so this is going to go into the oven to cold process oven process. Then I will cut it tomorrow, use the ends, and then we'll come back when I make this one. So a little bit of a 2-for-1. All right, you guys, this is going to be one of those soaps. It's just going to be one of those soaps. This is something I've never ever had happen in the hundreds of soaps that I've made. Yeah, so I took this one out. Actually, I had to put it in the freezer to get it out of the mold because the bottom was so soft. I'm like, I don't know why the bottom's soft. And then I'm talking like I'm grumpy. I'm a little grumpy. Anyway, so I took it out, and I'll take it out of the wooden mold if I get my words out. And I looked at the sides. I'm like, why are the sides so light? And then I'm like, why is the bottom so dark? And why is the bottom squishy? So I put it in the freezer to just get it out of the mold. I got it out of the mold. I put it under the fan. It's still squishy. And I'm thinking, okay, well, soda ash. I've dealt with soda ash before. Sometimes it's an issue. Sometimes it's not. I definitely have soda ash. So I'm not quite sure which direction to go with this yet. This batch is not going to work. It's not going to be a complete failure. but as far as a challenge goes, it's not going to be an entry, a main entry. So here's the issue. The very first layer that I poured in, with it being so soft, my concern is that, you know how I put, well, actually you wouldn't know, so, because I didn't record it. I'll get there. Anyway, I'm flustered, I'm irritated. In the bowl, I put my oils and my lye solution, gave it a whisk. I did not emulsify it because I didn't want to lose all that time and everything speed up. So I was afraid that, you know, usually the lye sinks to the bottom, so you want to give it a little stir before you scoop off any of the stuff. Make sure you have a nice mixture before you blend it in, which is what I did in that first video, that first soap I did. Same thing. I ripped my glove too. Anyway, we're just going to ignore that. So I was afraid that the top layer, or excuse me, that very first layer was going to be oil heavy and my top layer would be lye heavy. So I went ahead and cut off a little piece. It is not. So if this layer were lye heavy, it would be crumbly. It is not. And I just tapped it to my tongue. That's one of the zap tests. It did not zap me. So it is not lye heavy. There's different methods on doing that. Either you could just tap it on your tongue, and if it's lye heavy, it'll shock like a 9-volt battery. If it's not, or you can like rub your finger on it and tap your finger. Anyway, it is not lye heavy. It didn't crumble. It didn't zap me. So what happened with this layer is I did not emulsify it long enough. I have a false trace. I have actually never gotten that before, so this is a first time. So anyway, I could just peel these off. It's squishy. I could probably let this sit for like a month, but the problem is I'm not going to be able to cut the rest of it because it's going to harden at different rates. So what I'm going to do, I just cut off a little piece. You can see it's nice and squishy. Is I'm going to peel out these layers. See, it's just going to come out. I'm just going to probably use a scrape or something, peel that out, and I'm going to flip this upside down into a mold. And so this is the top of this, so I'm going to flip it upside down, and I'm just going to re-pour this section. I'm just going to do a different color. Why not? Okay, here's a second issue, is I do have the soda ash through the soap. So you can see that it gets lighter as you go to the top. All of these squares, the zigzag ones, back and forth, those should all be the same color because it should be a blend of that. So really, this one is what it should look like. It's supposed to be that color. That, you can see that little section right there, that's what it's supposed to look like. That's not what it looks like. So it just kind of gets lighter as it goes up. Sometimes that can happen with different temperature changes because it took me a long time to make this soap because I had to wait for each one to harden. Oh my goodness, you guys. This video is just going to be full of lots of entertaining things. So anyway, I'm going to not record this, but I'm going to scrape this stuff out. I'm going to put this back in the loaf mold. I'll stick this little piece back in so I know it's not lye heavy. Because if it were lye heavy, I would have to either rebatch the entire thing, or, because my concern was just this layer, then I'd cut this part off and save the middle part and add that to soap. It's still going to be usable. This is actually not going to be too bad of a fix because I can just scrape that out, pour a new layer of soap in there, and then we'll be good to go. So this will still be a great batch of soap. Not exactly what I wanted. That's okay. It's all a learning experience, but it does. I mean, look, it does look pretty darn cool if I were to have the colors and everything correct. I am, like I said, going to do this design again. I have some ideas, some things to fix, some things to do a little differently. Got to work on the math a little bit. This is definitely a very math-heavy soap design, which is kind of funny because my daughter, my youngest, is in 7th grade, and they've been working on fractions and percentages and decimals, and you need that for soap making, especially this type of soap making. Anyway, so I'm going to scrape this out and cover it up, and I'll come back when I'm mentally prepared to deal with this batch again. So we'll see you when I come back. And actually what I'll probably do, get this scraped out, and then when I'm making that other soap, you know, that I've talked about, I'll have extra batter from that. So this would be a perfect time to pour that, because that's not going to take much soap at all between these two loaves to pour that in. So we'll come back in a little bit. continues to be my stupid soap, but it's still soap. Oh my God. So that fix, well, I used the parts that I scraped out and I blended them up with the oils, and then I add the lye solution, and it went faster than I had anticipated. I have done that before and I know it works. It just, this is a stupid batch of soap. So this was supposed to go into nice pretty molds to sell individually, but it didn't happen. And yeah, so yeah, I anticipate having some air pockets in there. The saponification, excuse me, not the saponification, the emulsion happened just fine. The fragrance blended in just fine. So I'm not concerned about lye pockets, and I'm not concerned about fragrance pockets, because that's a bad thing, because if that happens, then you need to pretty much rebatch. But I am concerned about air pockets. So you can see that goes pretty deep in there, and I've dealt with this before with accelerating fragrances. Hopefully it'll just be on the outer edges. Same thing when I did the tops, or the bottoms rather, of these two. So let's cut them open. Hopefully there won't be too much damage to repair. I'll use some of this to fill in those little holes. And these ones with the checkerboard plaid pattern, I'll have to do some cleaning up on the sides for sure. So let's cut them open. Okay, so these are going to need some work. These actually are pretty darn good. This was that plaid design, so those actually turned out really, really well. So I'm happy with that. I've got soap all over my hand. So anyway, these turned out pretty good. So there's going to be minimal trimming up, cleaning up on these, obviously the sides and the edges. These are going to need more work. So remember, if you remember, I was talking about how the top layer of these got the soda ash in them, and see how those layers are lighter because they were supposed to be that color, and it goes lighter as it goes up the bar. And this is that same layer down here. So this was actually totally exposed to air inside the loaf when I had it in the oven. So when this happens with soda ash, it can make kind of a crumbly soap. Doesn't mean it's light heavy, it makes it kind of crumbly. So what you do is just using a, where's my planer? Use a planer and you plane that off, and then blast it with your steamer, and that'll make that all clean and pretty. So it still works fine as soap. I will have some pockets. This one's actually pretty good, but I will have some little air pockets to fill in, not too many, but we'll get those cleaned up. So I saved it. It's saved, yay!